Good evening, TDN listeners and viewers, and of course, a special good evening to the listeners of this week in interview. It's a pleasure to be on with you. I'm your host, Anthony Drago, your host and guide on this week in interview, and I want to tell you, welcome, join. At the same time, reach out to someone, invite them to listen and to view this week in interview. I really want us to try to grow the audience on this weekend interview. And it's been growing, but we want to grow it a little faster, especially now. There's so much going on, and there is so much uh, information out there that we are so confused a lot of the time as to what is real, what is AI, what is propaganda. It's starting to become almost like information overload. And so programs like this week in interview is extremely important because we bring you contemporary topics, but from a different angle, from a different perspective, from the experiences of our guests and so on. And so I encourage you to let others know that we are here, invite them to join us and to get their feedback. And you yourself, you can also subscribe and like to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and any other media that where you listen or view to this week in interview. Regular listeners, welcome. We do this every Wednesday in Dominica. RVR Jams on DigiPlay channel 59 carries this week in interview live. Online radio SBE in the Toronto market also carries us live. And we have GTM Radio, Global Talk and Music Radio, with our brother Angelo Allen carries us live as well. So we're all over the media. You can find us and either carry us with you during your work and so on. But tonight, the topic of discussion, our discussion is going to be centered around the general affairs that's going on in the world and in Dominica, in the Caribbean. There, some people describe it as the world being on fire, and what can we do to pour water on our house so that we don't catch fire. And by we, I mean we as individual people, we as our family, we as our community, as Dominicans, as Caribbean people, we in our own circle. That's what I mean. So at all the different levels, it's affecting us, what's going on. So my guest tonight is Mr. Alex Bruno. Alex is a professor and a political scientist. And I like to talk to him because, for one, we have good conversations. We challenge each other, we push each other's thinking, and Alex is someone who is not afraid to let you know where he is on a particular topic or a certain stance that he takes. And so I like having him on, and that's why he is a constant guest. We have once a month appearance with him. The last time he brought a friend uh, from the TUD, the Team Unity Dominica, where they're advocating for a united front for the forces that's interested in seeing a new administration at the helm in Dominica. And Mr. Paris, gave good account of himself. But tonight, Alex came alone. He doesn't have an additional guest. And we're going to spend the next hour or so, just talking about our own view of what's going on a global, on a regional, and on a national stage. Let's welcome Alex, my friend Alex Bruno, to the stage.
Yeah.
I think I can add you. So, yeah, we can. Sam, can you add him on? No. Okay. Oh, I know. There we go. Good night. Good night again, Alex, and welcome back to this week in interview. It's always a pleasure. I always look forward to our conversation. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. Looking forward to our conversation tonight.
Right. So big and wide sweeping.
Mhm.
What's going on in the world?
Well,
I know it's a broad question, but yeah.
I think you hinted to that. The world is on fire, not literally, but it would appear as if there's a lot of little hotspots, and there are more hotspots emerging in the world, you know. And when once the East is at war, the entire East is at war. No one nation in the East can be at war, and the other nations in the Gulf Coast does not be affected by that war. So the
Hmm. Hmm.
entire East is affected. Um, Europe has some issue up there as well. I think the only area that is really without firepower is North America, and by that I mean North America mainland and the expanse into Canada. But if we go to Latin America, we have some issues down there. We have issues. Um, um, well, we have hints of issues in Guyana, um, Venezuela. We know what just happened down there. We know the Chinese and the eyes on the Pacific in terms of Taiwan. So there are sparks and hints and ideas. The world is warm, so to speak, and it doesn't take much, as we saw what happened in Iran, for there to be flames, literal flames. So we're in a very precarious state in the world, and I guess those who are observing closely, as I am, know how volatile we are right now.
So, what should we be looking for? I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and they said, I feel like I should get a backpack and put some water. Like from the Caribbean, we know a hurricane preparedness kit. I feel like I need to be
Yes.
putting a hurricane preparedness kit in place. This person lives in the U.S. Because I feel like any minute now something might blow, and we might not have the opportunity to gather that once it blows.
Well, Iran said that it will stab America in its heart, and no one knows what that means. Um, and I mean, all we can do right now is wait, watch, prepare, and see. Because one of the things about warfare, there is traditional warfare and there's non-traditional warfare, insurgency, and that is the kind of warfare that the folks, the people who stand in defense of the Iranian Revolution and the ideals of Iran actually fight asymmetric warfare. And I'm not too sure that people who are used to fighting traditional war are prepared to deal with the different tactics and strategies employed by asymmetric warfare. One of those would be the challenge, the attack on the Twin Towers in New York. There's no way America was going to be prepared for such an attack. Right now, America is a bit wiser and a bit savvier, but there are also other techniques that might be being considered right now, and they might be deployed for the first time and hurt America the first time around. And that is the nature of the kind of asymmetric warfare that the folks, the guerrilla fighters in Iran, are very, very well noted for. I mean, you're talking about hundreds and thousands of years of that kind of tendency. Iran is not a new nation. Iran had a revolution in 79 that changed the sort of dynasty rule of Iran, to replace the Shah with an Ayatollah. The same Ayatollah got taken out for the first time since 1979, replaced by another Ayatollah. So Iran is not a very simple fix. Bombing will not fix the problem in Iran. I mean, yes, you can bomb, but diplomacy, negotiation, tactical maneuvering, that's what's going to really find our way through. The bombing, the fighting, the raging of war is just appetite for the elements in Iran to continue prolonging this thing as long as it can be prolonged. And you don't need an army or a strong military to prolong that war in the East. You just need different insurgencies. This the what do you call them again? Like Hezbollah, they call them not satellites, they call them, oh my, the term just left me, but these they
Oh,
work with
yeah, they're proxies, huh?
proxies, yes.
Hmm.
Iran has a lot of proxies, and that's what is dangerous about the war in Iran. Iran does not have to fight. Iran's proxies will start fighting and take the war to different lands and stuff like that. So again, this is just general comments, because one of the things that I did, Tony, when I actually, embarked on this field of studies, political science. I always wanted to understand what happened in the East. And I
Hmm.
actually did a couple of seminars on Iran and then the Middle East, and I can speak about Iran for the entire night if we have to, in terms of how the political dynamic shifted, and the fact that the West is not totally innocent in terms of what has happened. I mean, talking about the West and their involvement in the Iranian Revolution, what happened before that in the 1940s, the occupation of Iran by Russia, America, Britain. So there are a number of things that we can speak about, and I'm not saying that it is vendetta or return favor. We just have to understand that there are many layers on top of layers of history, unresolved history, and when you drop bombs on those layers, you're just going to cause more chaos and more problems. That's in a nutshell what I would like to say about that.
Right. And the thing about it is that our life, our economy, um,
Go ahead.
is tied with oil,
Good.
and
That's
Iran is a controller of a big portion of that oil. But not only that, they have a tremendous impact on the Strait of Hormuz, where most of the trade is coming through. So soon, maybe our Amazon packages are not going to arrive the next day as they do right now. Um, we and we've already seen oil prices. I'm in New York. Last week I bought gas at 2.59 a gallon. Yesterday I bought it at 3.20, 3.25. Right. So that's almost like 70 cents out of that. That's like a 30-40% jump in gas price already. You know.
yeah.
Um, so besides the price of oil, where are we seeing, let's say we're talking to Caribbean people, Dominica and so on, where are we seeing the impact um,
Everywhere, everywhere,
in our lives?
everywhere, because oil impacts everything.
Everything, right?
Oil price goes up, and the price of everything goes up. Shipping, marketing, production, labeling, packaging, everything is tied to oil. Oil is that variable that determines global economy. Nothing
Right.
else but oil. You can talk about gold. Yes, gold has a role to play, but oil is the fuel of the global economy. And we can just tell me any sector why is price going to go up in terms of accommodation, hotel accommodation, and we're going to tie it back to the price of oil. Anything and everything that we do in terms of production and the likes is tied back to oil. Or lights in Dominica is going to go up because most of the generating capacity is tied to oil.
Diesel. Yeah.
Diesel
Hmm.
comes from
Oil.
oil.
And so as you say that, it's so unfortunate that we still depend so much on diesel for power production.
And that is sad because we should have purged ourselves from the over reliance on diesel, because we have what it takes to generate energy by other means. And Tony, I'm coming down your alley right now. We can set up certain infrastructure to tap energy from the sun. We can do hydro as well. But I think our ambition is not based on doing those and doing them well over a long term period of time. So we think the quick fix is the easier way, and oil, diesel is easy to do. But at the end of the day, it is one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, means of generating energy. And many nations have learned that and moved out of it, the reliance of diesel and into other renewable energies. Cal Nassif has a wonderful department that deals with solar capacity, and I think I mentioned that on another program that I was. People like Cal should be encouraged to broaden his business so that the average Dominican will be able to afford, because the affordability is another issue. Government policy could make it affordable, whereby you put things in place so that Domlec could serve as a intermediary, or even banks would be told, look, that is our policy. You make loans available to people who want to get those capacity for generating electricity. And that brings the price down almost to rock bottom. But government must put policies in place, not just talk about trying to explore for stuff hidden for the interests of a few. But those things should be done in the interest of everybody, and government policy should support that. So that's one of the things I think we can do to kind of shield ourselves, or we could have done that. It's a little late to know to do it, but we should have been prepared for things like that. And right now, we would have been having our energy, but we would not be relying so much on the gas that's going to go up so much in Dominica more than it goes up here in America. Or maybe same thing, but because the currency is slightly different. But I think the gas price is much more in Dominica than it is in America.
No, when I go to Dominica, I rent a car. So and I mean I work in US, and so I can afford to do the calculation and say, well, it's $100. But when you go to Dominica, you pull in the gas station, you're spending 100, $120, $140,
Yeah.
right? Like I said, I get paid in US, so I can divide that by three and say, okay, if it's 120, it's $40. It's kind of equivalent to what I'm doing. But for the person who is not getting paid in US, person who's getting paid in Eastern Caribbean, that's $140.
Yeah.
You know, and the reason why I'm going there and happy is that people have to see what we're talking about. That if we had people at the helm who were not lazy, if the resources of the country was not so consumed with corruption, right, then we could have looked at hydro generation. We have a hydro plant in Dominica that was
Yes.
built, I don't know, 40 years ago,
Mm.
and we have not improved the technology. I mean, hydro production has matched along so much. There's micro hydro, there's all kinds of scenarios. Pumps have become more efficient now, where you could pump water to a height, have it there, and then when you come and bring it back down
Yeah.
and produce. And it
As is done
become
in New York.
yeah, and it becomes a store of energy, but and it
Yes.
also becomes a store of water for when if
Water
you have
supply.
a hurricane or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Uh, the West Coast has a lot of wind. Dominica is ideal for exploitation of wind energy. One half of our country is on the Atlantic coast. So there is wave action that generates electricity. We've been tinkering with a geothermal and spending hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know if it's to wash money or whatever it is, but we've not been able to generate not 1 kilowatt of energy after hundreds of millions of dollars of expenses and years of time and destruction of some of our forests or elfin forest and so on that's in this area. And I boil it down to laziness, because in the last 10, 15 years, we've had access to the financial resources to be able to implement some of those more sophisticated products. And so every time a hurricane happens and it devastates us, every time something happens, like it's happening right now in the Middle East and it affects us, every time there is a policy from the Trump from an administration that affects our ability to travel, people say, well, the government don't have control on that. Those are international events. So Alex, talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk to our people about that phrase. Like for example, I heard this man says, "Well, the ban on the travel do have nothing to do with me personally."
Hmm.
You know, I don't know if you saw that clip when we were in the visa ban a few weeks ago, and all that was coming. Then he was on an interview. I saw it live. He says, "I if I didn't see it, I wouldn't believe it." He says, "You know, this travel ban and all this thing have nothing to do with me personally. I just got my visa renewed."
Yes. I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw
So
that.
talk about that missed
Mhm.
opportunity because we don't have the correct people making decisions on the use of our resources.
Yeah. Well, I think the issue we have in the governance of our country is a lack of foresight and projected planning. we are reaction areas when it comes to ideas of governance, and we just have knee-jerk reaction to situations, including hurricanes, because we know hurricanes are coming every year, but we
every
always
year.
have to have a reaction every time a hurricane comes. So there is no sustained long-term strategic plan for such things. For instance, what is Dominica's reserves? How much money do we have if we need to go into it right now? Do we even have financial reserves? Is it in cash? Is it in gold? Where is it? How much is it?
Is that
So
even a concept?
is that even a concept? Which it has to be, because if you don't have money to run a country, when you need money to run a country, your people will suffer. And if your people suffer, your country is going to feel the bite of people suffering. So you have to have a reserve, or if you do not have one yet, create a system of reserves. So it's about the thinking, plan, project, have policies in place for when something like this happens, we can fall back on what we have. You spoke about wind, you spoke about water, you spoke about sun. We have all of that. You use that to your advantage into agro processing, into sort of homegrown industries that rely on the assets that we have. Nowhere on earth has more unpolluted water than Dominica. No other country on earth. And I'm saying so, probably somebody could challenge me. But when you talk about clean and natural, pristine water, no one else has that in terms of per capita and the size of our country. And water is more expensive than oil, Tony. A bottle of water like this in Dominica is about $3. 8 of this makes how much of this make a gallon? Because you're an engineer, you should know better than me. So
So
that's a 250 ml bottle of water, and about
that's
$3 for one in Dominica.
right. So we have what
Is it 16 of these in a gallon?
so about four, what 7 liters, about yeah, 8 liters in a gallon. So it's like maybe 16. Yeah. Well,
Right.
this is a quarter gallon, so it's 32. Yeah, because you have to multiply it by 4, and then 4/8 is 32.
Yeah, so
Rough
this is
numbers. Yeah.
so this is $4. So roughly, if you have to retail that, roughly a gallon of water, drinking water, water that is people would consume and buy, it's much more expensive than a gallon of oil, a gallon of gas. We have that. We have water sweetening the sea every day.
In the millions of gallons. Yeah.
Untapped, just flowing into the sea. Fresh, drinkable water. And we have not done anything to it. How much water do we have in a cistern, in a tank somewhere, if in case all our waters get brown eventually and we cannot tap the water? Where is the reserve? Where is the water reserve we have? Where is the big dam or reservoir that's built to hold a few gazillion tons of water that is purified and kept fresh for another 2, 3, 4 months if we have a crisis? So what I'm saying, Tony, we as a small developing island state, with the capacity we have or don't, but we have resources to be able to do certain things. 1, our money reserve. 2, our food reserve. 3, our water reserve, right? 4, the sort of homegrown industries that are impact free when it comes to global issues. So the price of oil goes up right now. But if you are producing agro produce, not just chemically produced stuff, organically produced stuff, using compost, using organic stuff, created in Dominica, nothing impacts your production. In fact, you will even do better because of the quality of stuff that you have. And people will always buy food. People will always drink water. So if you have that being created in Dominica, because Barbados do not have the kind of capacity we have to procure food. So all Barbados and the other countries and in other Caribbean countries will want to come to Dominica to get food. We'll export food, we'll make money. And you make more money on food and drink during recessions. So I'm telling you, we just have to create the environment, plan properly. No one prime minister should be deciding what happens in our country. A cabinet of people who think with technicians and technocrats should say, let's think of Dominica 50 years from now, what we want to have in place so that Dominica can be preserved if something happens. Let's think of the major catastrophe: hurricane, volcano,
Earthquake.
tidal wave,
Yep.
and create situations where the people will be protected if any of this happen, at least for a year. Do we have that? I don't think we do, because I have not seen a policy, but that's where we need to be going in this new world. In a world that is on fire now, so to speak, that's what Dominica has to do. We are a little gem. We are called the nature island, and we are indeed the nature island, but our policies should reflect that. And that is what I think is sadly lacking. You call the government lazy? I think they
Yeah.
are very comfortable, because the people in government are living well. They're making money, they have amenities, they're buying properties and everything else. So they're doing well, but that is just short lived. All of this can vanquish, evaporate in one day. I mean, we
Yep.
talk about the fire in Roseau lately, eventually. That form of wealth is a wealth that can just disappear. Money can just disappear tomorrow.
Ethereal. Hmm.
So we have to create long-term sustainable amenities that people can look back to and say, yeah, that is real. That is property that's in our name, that we can do, that we can keep. If it is transformed by nature, we still have a stake on whatever the case might be. So it's so yes, you say it's laziness, but I think probably it's inability and and comfort. Our leaders have become so very comfortable, or policymakers, that they do not understand the need to do like the Chinese are doing. The Chinese are planning. The Chinese have plans for the next 100 years. Where is Dominica's plan for the next year? I'm not seeing it, Tony. I'm not seeing it, and I
But
wish I could see it.
when we were growing up, we used to have proverbs and sayings. I remember in Castleberry School, primary school, them in the afternoon, that's all we would do. Is somebody is just reciting, call a spade, make hay
Yeah,
while the sun shines.
yeah.
And we would discuss what it means, right?
Mhm.
As teaching time saves nine,
But
prevention is better than cure. All of those things that used to stimulate our minds to think in a certain way, to think strategically,
mhm,
to take care of more than what is just in front of you. And the reason why I said lazy is not so much lazy in terms of a physical sense, but lazy in terms of the willingness of the government to tackle the things that you're mentioning. Nobody should tell a government that we need to have a development plan for the country for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, right? That should be given. But if you're not doing it, it's because you're lazy, it's because you think it's too much trouble to do it. So we can plan for carnival. When carnival finish, we can plan for whatever is happening in the summer. When summer finish, we can plan for what's happening for Curl Fest. The biggest accomplishment we've had is that now it looks like we're starting to plan for Curl Fest, even while we're doing carnival and while we're doing Easter and while we're doing summer. So so we learned that we should plan for Curl Fest, start planning for Curl Fest at least a year ahead. But besides that, what in the future are we planning for? What are we saying? How do we want to see our healthcare in 3 years' time or in 5 years' time? What we need to put infrastructure we need to put in place and so on. And that's what I mean when I say that the people
mhm.
who are in charge of our resources are lazy, because it looks like it's too much trouble. It's almost like we have folks in a job, and because their job is secure, you come to them with a new idea. Well, as a young man, come to Dominica as a professional, and you go to your boss and you tell your boss, I have this idea, this and that we can do. And he's like, boy, you don't know
Yeah.
what I know, you know, you don't know how hard it is to do things in this country, and you just kill your suggestion right there because it's too lazy. He sees it as, "Boy, I sit down there waiting to retire, and you're going to give me more work to do."
But that is a general trend or tendency on island. Again, that's not meant to be a criticism, but I observe that people do not move on, nor do they pass on to different people. I remember trying to find my way in the system, and I could never find my way until I left the system and developed myself in America. But had I remained in Dominica, I would have still been in the same position that I was trying to get my way. And I'm looking back now, 20 years, 30 years, and I'm seeing the same people in positions. The
Yeah.
same names are being called, the
Mm-hmm.
same people doing the interviews, the
Mm-hmm.
same people are on broadcast, the same people who have retired, they are back as consultants doing the
Yep.
things they have been doing for
Yep.
30
Yep.
years. How could I ever have gotten anything if I had stayed? So, and I don't want to call any name and put anybody on blast, but we know you can just look at it. How much has changed? Who have really passed anything on to anybody in Dominica? And the same thing is happening now in government, where one government wants to remain for 2 decades, maybe going on 3 decades, and maybe 4 decades. Time passes by very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm studying how Haiti got to it, how it is now in the contemporary era. Haiti had a revolution that the world did not like and they got pressure there. But in the contemporary era, a lot of political missteps were made. There was a guy called Papadoc, and he served for, he declared himself dictator for life. And he was in office for the better part of 3 decades, man. And a lot of his policies and the things that he did, the way in which he psychologically transformed the minds of the people in Haiti, caused Haiti to be the way it is today in great parts. Now we are 20 years with a situation in Dominica too, and we're talking about psychological mind bending in Dominica that we think is just fair game. But give this another term or two, and we are 30 years in this. And when you get down a particular road in terms of those kind of tendency, as innocent as they appear, that's what caused the problem. Again, I have been saying this for a little while, and people think when I say that I'm against people. No, I understand how the system works. And when you have a failed situation, when you have a situation that's been so transformed, it is very difficult to change it. We still can change it. We still can fix what's happening in Dominica. It's going to be tough, but we can do it. Give this another 2 terms, another 15 years. I'm not too sure that the damage will be repairable.
Because you will have, what will happen is that right now we have a generation of us
Mm.
who have seen Dominica in a better place.
Yeah.
So we are still alive, and that stays with us. But just past us is a generation that what is there is all they know, and
Yeah.
they're birthing another generation that that's all they know. And so
Yes.
and then you go into a third generation,
That
and then
becomes
you have people who it takes effort
so
for them
that
to think.
so that becomes the norm.
Yeah.
And that is the problem. That's how systems and societies change. And again, I'm seeing it. And you're right. I used to be younger, but I'm no longer a kid or a youth. I'm not even in youth age because youth age is 35 and down. So I'm not preaching gloom and doom. I'm just saying, as a person with a trained mind, and if what has been happening, we are 2 decades plus into this already. Another decade of that, and as you said, I maybe lose my energy to talk. Probably I choose to retire somewhere in Europe or somewhere. And I'm looking at my country burning up, like the Haitians are now watching their country,
Yeah.
almost irreparable. Again, I'm not saying that I am not saying that anybody is a monster. I'm just saying that monstrosities are created from situations when we are very comfortable. And that's again, I go back to that word comfort. We have become so comfortable. People like you and I, who probably did not have what you and I have, because I'm now taking care of my own matters for my retirement. I don't need the government to fix me. I'm fixing my own retirement thanks to my work and what I'm doing. But there are some people who are in my age group who are looking at 10 years, 15 years down the line and saying, "Boy, what I have now, boy, I don't have anything in the bank. I gonna have to hold on to these people because that's what I have." So a lot of people have that tendency and thinking, well, the government and keeping the status quo in place is their retirement, is their saving grace. And how can you fault people who feel that they have nothing else to fall back on? But the problem is you still have to fault them because it's going to cause a problem down the line, down the pipe. Because
Right.
our grandchildren are going to ask questions. What really happened? Where is the piece of rock that was promised to me?
That's what, because you have to think that when you plant a tree, you might not be there to sit in the shade or to pick the fruits.
No.
but somebody after you is going to have that shade, that enjoyment of shade. I need to take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors. When you come back, we're going to talk about the fire in Roseau,
Yeah.
and our heroic firemen,
Yeah.
and some of the and CARICOM,
Oh
uh,
boy.
CARIGO,
Oh boy.
whatever it is, the
Yeah.
relationship with Cuba. We have so much that we can still talk about. So let's take a quick break and we'll be right back, folks.
All right. Great.
Presented by
People say I've got a great smile. Well, I have to say, this is all thanks to the professional team at Beacon Dental Group right here in Dorchester, Massachusetts. I've got world-class dental care. Beacon Dental Group has expert and caring staff dedicated to providing the most advanced and satisfactory treatment in all aspects of oral health. Their services are designed to meet your needs and give you a perfect smile, too. General checkups, cosmetic surgery, Gemini laser service, and advanced procedures, all in a state-of-the-art facility. Call or visit Beacon Dental Group today, 1026 Blue Hill Avenue, Dorchester, Massachusetts, or call 617-282-2146 for a smile that lights the world.
Looking to promote your business, engage current customers, and reach new people? Well, look no further. From the basic presentation to a fully fledged advertisement, use your video ads to attract customers. At Man's Audiovisual Productions, we do just that. We produce videos for business and event promotions, product demo videos, animated explainer videos, fundraiser ads, and much, much more. Engage your clients and sell online. We customize the video to match your brand design. Guaranteed to play flawless on all devices, including smart TVs. Contact us at telephone number 203-690-4342 or 767-245-6238. Visit our website, mansaudiovisual.com, or email us at derekvideo@gmail.com.
All right, so welcome back, folks. Thanks for staying with us through the break. Before I go back to my guest on our topic tonight, I want to remind you that last week we had Miss Cheryl Plummer. She has a non-profit organization called HEDY, HEDY. You can check out her Facebook page. She does some work. HEDY, by the way, stands for Helping Educate Dominican Youth, and they do um, school supplies for students and school feeding programs and so on. And so there's room for folks to help and jump in and contribute. And so go on head here, just look for the Facebook page, HEDY. See if you can contribute and help out there. My guest tonight on this weekend interview is Alex Bruno. But at this point, he's a co-host. We sit and we talk. Um, and we basically are talking about global conditions, but how Dominica could have buffered itself a little better, and not just lamenting that fact, but we're pointing out so that those things are still possible.
Yeah.
That those are the things that we need to do. And so, Alex, where I was heading with with what we were talking about is that elections have consequences. Who you vote to run the affairs of your country is literally life and death. Literally life and death, because if you get sick and you cannot get medical attention and you cannot raise the money to go outside to get it, you will die or your loved ones will die. It's as plain as that. And Dominicans have been dying. So it's life and death. But it's also life and death of the country, because we see policies where Alex made the case that water is more expensive than oil, but we see the disregard for following the rules that would make sure that when projects are done, we at least take the impact on the river into account. So we can make a decision, yes or no, or we can make a decision of how we can execute a project to minimize the impact on our rivers, on our forests, on our water catchments. Dominicans have really been a little bit spoiled. So we do a project, we get hurricane, the trees get broken down, they grow back. But it's not as simple as that. And I think most folks know that it's not as simple as that. And so we have to make better choices in terms of who's in charge of running the affairs of the country. Alex, as we come back, um, coming on to the region, we have CARICOM and
Yes.
we have the Prime Minister of Trinidad,
Mhm.
who seems to be stealing the limelight from Mia Motley, who wanted to be a superstar.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of showwomanship, because the men are too busy fooling their bags. The male prime ministers seem like they're busy fooling their bags. So the women getting a chance to try to fight for centage. But it's just so much talk. Why is CARICOM so toothless? Why has CARICOM been so ineffective um, in the region?
Well, they are paper tiger. They really look good. CARICOM looks good on paper. The intention of CARICOM is great. I would overwhelmingly support CARICOM if it were allowed to work as it was designed to work. And the issue we have with CARICOM is the leaders who have turned CARICOM into a club that a few of them seem to manipulate. And Kamala got it right, Miss Essa, when she said that leaders in CARICOM are helping other leaders in CARICOM to stay in office. That's not what the design of CARICOM was. The design of CARICOM was to assist in the life, the livity of the people, not of the people leading the people. You see CARICOM troops, so to speak, being used to validate and to procure
To prop up, yeah.
the process of elections and whatever for other leaders. I mean, the application of the tools of CARICOM have been hijacked by a few people who are well positioned, directors of CARICOM, for their own interests. And that's the problem with CARICOM. And Kamala called it right. Some people didn't like what she said, but she really had her hand on CARICOM's pulse. And she, I think, shamed a few leaders who I think are shameless and will maybe still continue doing what they're doing. I mean, how could you, as CARICOM leaders, follow? Okay, there was an election in St. Vincent, and a leader, one of the big guns, lost the election. Right, the inauguration for the person who won in St. Vincent, none of the big leaders were there. CARICOM, he is now a CARICOM leader, elected prime minister for CARICOM country.
Mm-hmm.
You are not there for him and his inauguration, but you are there for another leader. And you who have lost in St. Vincent, you are invited. I mean, it is just a bizarre, laughing matter what CARICOM has become. And I think our Prime Minister, Dominica, has a lot to do with it because he's one of the longest serving members in the Caribbean. I think it was next to Gonzalez, who's now gone. So I think he might be the longest serving prime minister in the
Yeah,
Caribbean.
because
So
Gonzalez no longer there.
he essentially is like the kingpin, so to speak, of the sort of affairs. And Mr. the one from Antigua as well, and I guess the Barbados lady who has won her
And I think
first.
he's passing on the lessons to the Barbados leader.
Yeah, and I thought she was doing well with two clean sweeps. She won a third, and I suspect I do not know how much longer she wants to keep it up, but with the snap she called the last time around, it appears as if it's the same kind of vibe that's running through the leaders who control the Caribbean region. Again, CARICOM was not meant to procure the power for leaders. It was meant to better the life of the citizens. And the directors are supposed to stay at the back and let that work. But they're taking the limelight. And you talk about people juxtaposing for popularity. And that is what you're right. I mean, and Kamala actually upstaged Mia on the last outing.
Mm-hmm.
And Mia is doing well internationally, and that's helping her too in Barbados, because the Bajan see her as the international leader of Barbados, as the Caribbean's prime minister. That has helped her a lot in the last election. I mean, to great part, she used that. So her international profile works very well for her. And she'll be very well served to move out of government in Barbados and go international with that profile that she has. I would hope that she does not think of continuing to be in office, even if she's winning overwhelmingly. But after a while, it's time to move on. And I'm sure that the learned, wonderful, gentle lady will eventually move on. I don't think she'd want to overstay as some people in the Caribbean would. So I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt, and I'm hoping that she has the willpower to step away from leading Barbados as prime minister and a policymaker, and go to the UN or wherever she wants to go to. And maybe our prime minister could do something like that too. You don't have to stay controlling the coffers the way you guys are doing. You will lose nothing if you just move on. In fact, you will gain more, because at the end of the day, if those leaders continue to remain in office, eventually they will fall from grace. And you don't want that to be your story. Move on while you are on a high, and get something else to do to make the region proud of you. And that's where I think CARICOM is. The CARICOM leaders thinking, well, there's a magic, there's a formula to lead and to rule and to win. Let's continue the formula and let's make this our thing. And that is the problem with the CARICOM right now.
Cuba.
Well, Cuba.
I'm just going to let you talk about Cuba and what's going on with the region.
Do you want to direct it, or do you want to just talk generally?
No, go ahead.
All right. So Cuba is a sister Caribbean island, albeit Spanish, and Cuba maintained a particular governing ideology through the Castros, following the revolution, which is a sort of socialism model, which is not necessarily a bad model, but it can get corrupted, especially because of the way the model is operated. Because in a socialist country, the government controls the economy or the money. And if somebody who controls the government cannot control themselves, well, that's where you have problems. So people who normally lead socialist economies become corrupt because of the over-controlling and the ability to wield the government's money. I'm not too sure that you can say the Cuban government is corrupt in that way. But certainly, it can be an oppressive government because of how it controls people's power and people's right. I'm not criticizing, I'm not sugarcoating anything for Cuba. So the regime comes with goods and bads, and the Cuban people, some have suffered following the revolution. I met a Cuban lady in Miami here, and she told me she fought for the revolution, but she thought she was fighting for her country. But she didn't know she was fighting for the people who controlled the revolution. And the revolution succeeded, but she lost her country. So there are problems with what happened after the revolution. But Cuba is a wonderful country that has given us a lot. And Cuba, the Cuban government meant well and stood on the side of history, the right side on occasions. I think when Mandela was in prison for a long time, it was the Cubans who gave a helping hand. And in fact, when he came back out, they were working in film. It was the Cuban who trained so many healthcare practitioners.
When Mandela became president of South Africa, his first visit out of the country was to Cuba.
Voila. Yeah. The Cubans trained how many healthcare practitioners, not just for the Caribbean, for the world. So they have exported that idea in terms of serving people when they're most vulnerable. So Cuba has done, I think, more good than you can count the bad. But somehow there has been an attempt to marginalize Cuba. In fact, there has been an embargo on Cuba for how many years now? The better part of 50 years.
Yeah.
And what it has done, it has frozen Cuba in the 1960s, 50s, 60s. So Cuba is a country frozen. If you go to Cuba right now, the infrastructure, the cars, and everything else is frozen because nothing much is happening to expand the life of the Cubans. And the people are suffering, not the leaders of Cuba. The people are suffering. So one of the things probably America and the West could do is just to find another way. Every country can't be a democracy. I was told that they are trying to democratize Iran right now. That's a mistake. Iran cannot be a democracy. Not
Well,
every democracy is not for everywhere. Democracy probably is not for Cuba. Let
well,
Cuba.
those are words because the people that we think that are trying to democratize Iran are trying to move America in the opposite direction. So that cannot be a genuine. But do you think that the Caribbean islands are abandoning Cuba? I
And
mean,
Haiti, and Haiti. Yes, we
do
have.
but let's talk about Cuba because similar to Venezuela, but Cuba, where Cuba has done so much for these islands, and even to the point where they are being forced or they are agreeing to send back medical personnel back to Cuba so that they don't offend um, Big Brother up to the north. What can they do
Very little.
not to leave Cuba stranded?
Well, very little because the might is right. And the mighty America will decide and dictate what happens in the Americas, and we are in the Americas. So there's very little Caribbean governments can do right now, to be quite frank.
Hmm.
They're going to have to react, and they're going to have to take measures that the powers that be see is they're responding favorably to what they want them to do. So those smaller countries have really very little to play, very little wiggle room. And if a prime minister touts and say, "I'm not going to do it," that's probably just antics and semantics. I think
Hmm.
eventually those countries will fall in line. And I'm afraid that we will not stand up for Cuba when we're supposed to. I
Right.
don't think, I mean, you don't need a military might to stand up for your sister country. You have to negotiate. You have to say, let's talk about it. Let's meet in Mar-a-Lago. Let's meet around the table and talk about what really is going on, what really has happened in Cuba, and how we can still be a friend to Cuba and be a friend to you. Don't just tell me to be a friend to my sister country. What does that really mean? So you have
Right.
to engage. You have to engage in diplomacy. You have to say, I don't want to give up Cuba, man. I want to hold on to Cuba, but what can we do to hold on to Cuba and still hold on to what it is that we're holding on from you? So it's a matter of negotiation. And we believe that we don't have the leverage to negotiate, but we do. We do. And if all the countries come together, all the leaders come together and say, let's talk. That's what CARICOM should be doing right now.
Hmm.
Coming together on Cuba and say, let us go with one talking point. Let's use that talking point instead of little different leaders using their own pulpit and saying what they're going to do as a country. We should do it as CARICOM. We should do it as a Caribbean community. We should do it as the wider, America, as a wider people within the archipelago, and stand up for Cuba. But I think there will be defectors. Some people believe Trinidad defected. Um, and
Jamaica has cut their ties.
yeah,
Guyana.
and we
Um,
understand. One understands why those countries are going that way, and more countries eventually will go that way. I hear Barbados saying that they will not, but I get the feeling Mia will eventually have to do what is necessary to be done. I think our Prime Minister in Dominica said something as well, but it's just wind that's blowing when it comes to
mm,
the major global geopolitical powers. So I'm hoping that we can speak together and stand with Cuba and for Cuba. As I said, Cuba is not a perfect nation. No nation is perfect, but Cuba has done enough to merit our support. And as a Caribbean region, and I'm hoping that the region can talk to America. I mean, just engage
yeah,
steady.
I think that they could engage. I mean, how do you not talk to America and choose to send back hundreds of medical personnel that are going to leave your people without medical attention? How is that? How is that the first action that you take? How is that when Marco Rubio, whoever it is, were talking to Caribbean leaders recently? How did that? How the Caribbean agenda is not part of the agenda?
Well, I think what the Secretary of State would have done is he would have engaged with individual countries And
Yeah,
when
but they
one
have to
sees
come as a body. That's what, because you're CARICOM. CARICOM is not individual people.
who is going to decide that America doesn't want you to talk to CARICOM, America wants to talk to you and say, look, that's what I'm doing with you. That's where we are. And then the spill off effect happens. But the people who are speaking to him and America should say, well, why don't we come on, man? Let me get my brothers and sisters involved in the conversation. Allow me to bring them in, man. Let's have a chat. And I think America would be gracious enough to say, okay, let's
We're
talk.
not gracious enough. If we say, well, we are a block of islands, and you talk to us. These are our representatives. You talk to us. So that is why, no matter what, no matter the instantaneous truth that may be in Kamala's utterances, no matter whether what she's saying is true or not, I think there is more vinegar in there for Caribbean people than honey. Because I mean, it's not new that the CARICOM is an old boys club. It's not new that these people are only interested in staying in power. She was involved in St. Vincent's election that assisted in getting Ralph to lose. So the talking that she's doing right now is just a talking of convenience, as as a, as opposed to them recognizing, hey, our backs are against the same wall. If never we haven't done it before, let us approach this um, as a common front. But CARICOM has always been a figment of imagination that has never really materialized. We did some things with trade, like with the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas and the free movements to duties and that sort of thing. But we've never really there's never our leaders, our people come together, but our leaders have never exercised or demonstrated the willingness to approach anything as a coherent, not climate change, not disaster preparedness, not reparations, all of those things. They prefer to go individually, and the Caribbean people are suffering as a result.
Well, but Tony, I think that is our fate. There is a kind of Caribbean secularity that exists within Caribbean culture that just causes us to be that way. And the only way we can go beyond that is if we mature enough to go beyond that. It affected us with the Federation in 1958 as well. And those people, those leaders were matured and astute, and Federation failed. The leaders who we have now are less mature and astute. So we don't expect them to have that coming together moment. So it is the secularity that has been placed within the Caribbean culture thanks to coloniality. The continuation of the mindset that you are controlled and we divide you so we can perpetually control you. You are a prime minister of this little piece of rock that gives you more power than the king, than the president of Americas. So use that power and try to find your position on your own when it is not designed for the Caribbean to survive as different units. America was never going to survive as 13 different individual colonies. Africa will never survive as 54 different independent countries. It has to be one. There must be a oneness. The European Union tried it. It's working, I think, not as well as it ought to. But that is, the blocks must come together and the blocks must speak with one voice. And if and when we do that, we will have stronger units, stronger regions, where the superpower does not get to dictate what happens in those regions. And sadly, that's where CARICOM is. And I think the immaturity, the lack of astuteness, the lack of seriousness of our leaders is perpetuating the secular nature of Caribbean leadership. And I think we are doomed to that fate until the new group of people who is emerging emerge with this tenacity to say once and for all, we are going to be the superpower that we can be in the region and work in one accord in CARICOM.
So Alex, what I think is going to happen.
What is that?
People are discovering that the Caribbean region is the best, absolutely best portion of real estate in the world.
Yeah.
And they're going to take it from Caribbean people.
They are going to take
Or
it.
Caribbean people are going to hand it to them.
You think they are still going to take it, or they have all but taken it?
They haven't taken it as yet, but I think the process will continue. I think the Caribbean is going to be purged of what we think of as Caribbean people, and our children and our
Mm.
grandchildren are not going to own the Caribbean.
So
That that is what I see. Unless there is some kind of inspirational or charismatic leader that can bend the curve and take us in a different direction,
no, but
unless
they need.
something happens where America loses the kind of power that they have in the world and they're forced to really not pay attention to it, and so we get some breathing room. In Dominica, we say, "Pa kite yo point Dominic Hodnu." We are handing it over to them.
My brother, my brother. In the 1980s, I was still a youth. I tried to run for council election in my village, Kalibishi. I think 1984 or 5, thereabout. I didn't win, of course. I was too young. And then the year or two after that, I tried to get back and I was challenged. I never tried again. Why I wanted to do that is because the lands in Kalibishi was being sold to foreigners. And I felt if I'm in the local council, I'm in the village council, I can maybe try to talk about land use policy and maybe we should not really sell all the land. If you go to Kalibishi right now, my brother, see who own the lands, the real estate. Find out who own them. And I'm telling you, the majority of those major bit of real estate owned by people who are not from Dominica, not from Calibishi. If you go around Dominica and look to see where properties are being owned by whom and the sort of edifice that's built there, tell me who owned them. We had a situation where one killed the other for over these differences on property rights and whatever in Dominica. Go to St. Lucia, go to any of the countries in the Caribbean, and you find the same tendency happening. It is just a matter of time for Caribbean ownership to be crystallized, for the true owners. Go in Rosas, look at buildings that are not owned by anybody, but they are built and nobody knows who owned them. Who has the money behind the ownership of those buildings? Who is buying the properties in Roseau and where is the money coming from? Who is bankrolling these things? So yes, you say we might, but I think the manifestation of the ownership of the region is just yet to be seen. Because most of the real estate, not just in Dominica, but in Florida, Caribbean, are in foreign hands. And you are right. They know that we are a superpower as a region. So people will want to own and own. And there's a situation where there are a group of people who own the electoral system, not just the machinery in the countries, but the power behind electing people. And there's a group or a couple of groups of people who go through the different Caribbean countries and just creating situations for elections to be won. They control the dynamics. Now there's people behind them with money. Who are these people? So, my brother, this thing goes deeper than we think. And again, as you say, it is just we just need a renaissance. We need a sort of Edward LeBlanc kind of energy in Dominican politics. Do I see it now? No. Do we need it? Yes. Do we have the capacity in Dominica for that to happen? Yes. But that's what we need. We need that kind of a movement to excite our base and maybe to try and fix Dominica if we can still fix it. And we need the same thing to happen in every other Caribbean country. Is that going to happen in every Caribbean country at the same time? No. So I think it's going to be a long, long, long road to recovery, my friend. Very
if
long.
if at all. And that is the gripe that I had. To me, I see one of the major issues with Caribbean politics, Caribbean governance, is the lack of term limits. I think America would not be what it is if it didn't have term limits, because they would have had a dictator a long time ago.
So right.
And it seems as though term limits is such a simple thing. But otherwise, this Saint Teresa will come into power and get the taste of power and find that I started this project, I should stay and finish it and decide to stay. And the next thing is to say, well, I was thinking of Mary, to replace him, but look at what Mary going to do. I'm going to stay in power. And there's always a reason why the person in power thinks that they should stay in power.
Oh yeah.
And without the fence, without the guardrails of term limits, without the guardrails that sort of equalize um, the control of the resources, we end up with what we end up with. That somebody gets into power, and the only thing they're interested in is remaining in power.
Yeah.
They don't care about development. They don't care about quality of life for their people. They don't. They just care about remaining in power. And unfortunately, in Dominica, we had a fight for electoral, quote unquote, electoral reform for 15 years. And people give lip service to term limits, but they never really committed themselves to say that this is an important thing. As a matter of fact, every time I raise it, somebody says, "Well, you for a term limit, you need a constitutional change." I say, "What? If it's a constitutional amendment you need, let's go for a constitutional amendment." You're telling me that if we want to go from Miami to Dominica for Carnival, and we say, well, to go to Dominica to Miami for Carnival, you need a plane.
Get a plane.
No, no, no. What we have is cars. So let's drive to wherever we can drive to instead. That makes absolutely no sense. And so you fight for 15 years, and what you get is a kind of a vinegar they put in your mouth called re-registration, and it just makes the problem worse than it was. But they had left it how it was. So what do you fight for 15 years for?
Yeah. Um, you spoke about a gentleman, I think our prime minister, who said that the visa problem is not a problem because he just got a visa.
It has nothing to him personally.
Yeah,
It has
no.
nothing to do with him personally.
These people. Have you ever seen an out of touch African leader? Or not just African, an out of touch person who just does not, who is just immune to the environment.
Yeah.
That is what I liken that statement to. I didn't want to comment on that because I saw it, but I'm saying, does he not really have a presence of mind to know that what he's saying does not feel good?
Without cutting, you know what that equated to me in my mind when you read the history book, and they told Joan of Arc that the people don't have bread. She said, "Let them eat cake."
Let them eat cake. I mean, my friend, how could you not know that this is wrong? I mean, of course you're going to get a visa. Of course you're going to get that. You are the country's biggest diplomat. You are going to get it. I mean, you have so lost touch of the people that you do not know that this is a wrong statement to make. You are saying that it is not you. You are the reason why we have this thing. You have been in office for over 20 years. It is your policies they are reacting to in terms of
it has nothing to do with him personally.
The people who have owned and held diplomatic status with the questionable character and behavior. It is you. It is all you. And you're turning back and saying, not you. Look, you just get a visa. And you're going to win another election on top of that. I mean, this is. I mean, sometimes I just wonder, and again, it just shows that absolute power can really blind people. And again, I don't want to criticize the honorable prime minister, but he's opening up himself up to kind of scrutiny that's maybe unwarranted. When that was a problem for me, it bothered me a lot. I never spoke about it publicly. I'm just doing it now for the first time. But it bothered me that he didn't understand how serious this thing is. There's a brother of mine who has a wife who had not been very well, recovering from a stroke, and he would go to America once a month, every time he gets a little break, to go and see his lovely wife. Pay his $2,000 and go and come back. Right now, the man cannot go and see his wife because he cannot afford the visa fees. Right? He's living in chagrin, agony. There are people who used to do their little, they cannot do it. Students, people are bothered by that. I am personally affected by that. I just will not put my business outside. But people are having problems, and he thinks it is business as usual because
Yeah,
he and his group can just travel in and out.
you can travel in and out.
No, man, that's a somebody needs to talk to him. Maybe he won't listen to me. I don't think he likes me too much, but he should like me because I'm really trying to help him out by telling him maybe he doesn't need to understand. His people who are close to him, they're not explaining to him what's happening to him. But I can tell him what's happening to him. I can help him to not to fall in that ditch. Because when you go in that slippery pool, you can't get back up. He still can be fixed and saved, but he has to demit office. He has to, and again, negotiate with whoever and find something else to do. I mean, enough is enough. You are now not understanding your own problem that you have created, and you are boldly saying that. No, man,
Listen, but it bothered you that much. You know what bothered me more? That the the opposition didn't see it as something
which opposition.
that needed to be spoken about and highlighted and examined and really used as a teaching point to the people. Yeah, we don't want to talk about this person so much because the more you talk about them is the more oxygen you give to them. But when things like that happen, you,
Totally.
apart from just calling Matt, and you need to be able to have, I mean, we could have a 2-hour discussion just on that statement.
Have a discussion about it. Spend some time executing that problem. Telling
Yeah.
Dominicans, let me explain that to you. But you talk about the opposition. The opposition is one of the biggest assets to the incumbent
Yes.
because the prime minister is enjoying, he's living a charmed life because of the lack of vision and foresight, unity, togetherness, astuteness, strategic positioning of what we call the opposition, which is the unit that is keeping people like me, you and I, from getting involved because, we're not supposed to be, that's my thing to control. So the incumbent wants to control the majority side and the minority side. Because by opposition, some people in Dominica think UWP. That's the opposition they know. But that is not the opposition. That's just one party.
Mm-hmm.
We are all it. And that one party, probably they are well organized or whatever it is, has to understand that all factors must be brought into and put on the table. It cannot be a one party or my thing. And especially when that party has been so guilty of not doing what is right, they are part and parcel of the major problem we have.
But they're at least 50% of the problem.
Yeah, the government is in power to the 50% or maybe more because of them. And if Dominicans had seen that they had a better option there, they would have put them in office a long time ago. Dominicans are not dotish, we are people who see. And it's better you stay with the one that you know, than the one that you don't know what you don't know. And so you have to put on the table, like what we're doing here now, the parties involved and interested in replacing the current government should face the people, go on the ground as Ruzi did with his disciples and talk to the people. Here is how we can save the country. Here is the hope we give you. Upakafesa, a prime minister says something like that. And you who want to be prime minister, not sitting down and getting people like me, Tony, other people down with you, so we can decipher, break that down to the people and explain to Dominicans how ridiculous that statement is. You just go in and call a program and and that's it. Nah, man, Tony, man. It bothers me sometimes, but I'm doing what I have to do until I can't do it no more. And at the end of the day, what befalls our country wouldn't be on my hands. Because I have been talking for a little while, brother. Thanks for having me here. I'll continue doing it. But I wish we could have found the magic, a way where we all can speak and say the same thing. And look at the visa problem. I mean, it's dead already. It's dead already.
Yeah, we had Carnival. We had Carnival.
A problem that is affecting us now as we speak.
People dying because of it. People can't come to education because
people
of
can't
it.
Do reunion. People cannot do the celebration. People can't go to bury their dead.
Yeah.
You know what is more dignified than someone going to bury their dead? People cannot do that. And it is an issue that people just forget.
Yeah. They go through Carnival and now next. But anyway, Alex, It's nine almost 9:20. So let's wrap it up. I think we did a good job of bringing the global and talk regional and bringing it local and really getting people to understand that elections have consequences. I would like us, Alex, think about it, to talk about what we can do to mobilize, and you can bring what's his name, the guest who
Carlos?
came, Carlos, on with you. What we can do to create a movement to get people to reconfirm
Yes,
on the election list. I think this is
that
important.
needs to
So
happen.
let's talk about that
That needs
and
to
see
happen.
what we can make happen. So closing remarks, my bro.
Well, thanks. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. You kind of know how to ask the questions and the right questions to ask to get me thinking because um, it gets life gets a bit lonely and boring because of so much thing that I know. But when you're not challenged to say it, it's like it remains in you, and it can become a bit depressing when you cannot express yourself in ways that you would like to. Because I have so much to give, and I don't have the outlet to do. And you do it well. You get me to speak about things. I'm hoping that my what I do is helping people to think. I'm hoping no one gets really upset about the things that I say because I really mean well when I say it. Um, and I think we have a country to save, a region to mold, and if it's now or never, I
No one
think
ever,
I
yeah.
think we are at a point where we cannot hold back. We cannot surrender. There's no way. I mean, I'm supposed to be a political expert, and I'm supposed to remain neutral. I'm not supposed to have any political leaning. That's what the ideal is for people like me. I cannot remain neutral in a situation where my country is going through so much. And the people who are experts who are speaking fluently and pretending not to be aligned, who are aligned,
They
secretly,
align very.
if their country had been going through the things, if they were so bothered and hurt the way that I am hurt, they would be doing more than I am doing. I'm not even an activist. I'm still an academic, an educator. I have not gotten into activism as yet. I don't think I want to. So I'm really, what I'm saying, Tony, I'm trying, I'm speaking, and I'm not making enemies. I'm trying to make friends. I'm trying to build our country, and I'm trying to mold our region. So thanks again for the opportunity. I look forward to engaging with you again on any topic. Just let me know, and I'll prepare for it, and I'll be happy to share. My focus, however, those days is on younger people like the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I think that's what's going to really be the people who make a difference in Dominica. Right now, I think the emphasis should be on them. So I'm writing kids' books and stuff like that. I'm talking to kids, hoping to let them understand what Dominica is and what Dominica can be. Hopefully, somebody might grow up and say, "Oh, that's what that old man told me some time ago." But it might be them. I don't think the current generation is going to fix our problem, right?
Before you go, I know I told you closing remarks. One of the members of the audience is asking a question or making a comment. I don't know if you want to respond to clarify what we meant. I'll contribute to it as well, but I wanted you to go first. He said that's why the opposition will never be united when guys starting stating that UWP is 50% of the reason why Labour remain in power.
Okay, okay. So let me fix that. They are more than 50%. More than 50%. So I'm not sure who's saying that, and I guess that must be a UWP operative because they want UWP to be the opposition. In fact, I think they refer to Thompson
Well,
as the
let's not do that. Let's respond. Let's not assume that they are anything.
oh,
Let's respond to what we mean,
by
or
50%
what
of the
I will say
blame.
what I mean, but
Go
what
ahead.
what what you mean when you say that the opposition is at least 50% of Labour Party being in power for at least 25 years.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want me to go first, I can go first.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, you give the percentage. I didn't give it, but I think
Yeah.
it's more than fifty
So
percent. I think it's more than fifty
so
percent.
mathematically, right? Election is heads or tails, right? You
Yeah.
win, one side win, one side loses. So if you lose, you are responsible for the person winning, right? Because in a scenario, theoretically, both any one of the two can win. But But I'm not taking that as my reason. What I am saying is that the United Workers' Party, in its time in opposition and its time not in government, has not been able to paint a vision that has inspired the people of Dominica to vote for them or do it in a strategic way where they can win the election. There are a few elections where they have gotten even more votes than the Labour Party, but they've not been able to do it strategically where you can, because the idea is to win 11 seats.
Yeah.
And my observation, United Workers' Party, is that they are not strategic. They don't seem to understand to be strategic. So a simple example: if you are the leader of the party, it means that you're applying for the job to be prime minister.
Yeah.
And a simple thing like your packaging, how you present yourself to the public, has to be in such a way that people can imagine you as a prime minister. And
Everything.
if you're in that position, you're supposed to be educated enough to understand that people vote on emotions, and
Mhm.
we are influenced by what we see as much as what we hear. And
Yes.
so if you're applying to be the prime minister, you have to be able to carry yourself and interact with people in a way where they can imagine you in the role as prime minister. That
Yeah.
is that is basic, right? The other thing is that I don't think that they've done enough. So if we're playing football and Alex beating me every time because Alex have a guy on the right defense that just every time my star forwardsman come forward, he taking the ball from him and he clearing it. You coming back the same time with the same play, with the same play. Alex have nothing to do. Just kick as long as this guy is healthy. Just put
Mhm.
this guy there. He block your forwardsman, right? You have no strategy whatsoever to take care of that man. Send somebody to break his foot. I don't know. Design a play that doesn't go on the right wing. It goes on the left. Some kind of strategy that's going to make you have a chance of a different result, right? But you cannot come back with the same place, and complain,
Mm.
oh, they have this big man, he's a giant here, he's in the gym, he's stronger than my guys, whatever, whatever, whatever. And but you losing the game at the same time. So I will stop there. I can go on and on by
Yeah.
what I mean by that, them being at least 50% responsible for
Yeah.
Skerrit being there.
Well, I again, I have been part of the UWP machinery, and I do not want to say everything that I can say, but you are right about the party not being strategic. And it's not for not lack of trying, it is because somehow I think the leadership do not see the value in thinking things through and doing things the way that the other party does it to win. I'm going to give you one example because the person who said so, I guess, is saying so with some level of authority. Tony, there was a time when Lennox Linton, wonderful gentleman, I have nothing bad to say about Lennox. I cannot, nor will I say anything bad about Thompson personally or Mr. James, no one. My problem I have is the lack of foresight, vision to win and doing the right things. There was a time when Lennox Linton was implicated in a ploy of receiving money from a white man. I was part of the team. I was the strategist. I watched Lennox. I said, Lennox, that cannot be true. Lennox said, no. I say, well, what do you have? He said, I have a camera, I have surveillance. Lennox got the footage of the thing really happening where there was a dramatic presentation in his yard with people planting a bag, picking it up, making a few takes so they get it looking real. I said, but Lennox, but that is a problem. Them fellas are in trouble. They're going to lose the election. Because the leader of the country, the prime minister, was saying money. Ian Douglas, they all were down saying that Lennox got her money. So I say, boss, that is it. Give me that, I'm going to make a production. I called Marlon in from Texas. Marlon met
Mm.
me in New Jersey. We created from the video footage a running tape of one of the times they took the bag and put the bag back and left. And we had Giselle do the narration. No cutting of the tape, just they come, they put the bag, the time is running, they pick up the bag and they left with the bag. Giselle Francis narrating about 25 seconds tape, and we put that out. That was the plan. But that was not the plan, because Lennox took that tape and cut it up, edit, put things, change things. He make a big dramatic story of how many times they put it and explaining as he's going along, you know. And I'm saying, oh my God. All you needed to do was put the bag and take it out and let Dominicans end for themselves. So when he did that, the other side starts saying, oh, you edit, or is a drama that happening there then? What is that? We don't understand that. And they just totally twist that and turn it back on a situation where Lennox could have looked as a victim. And the other thing I told them was, let your wife speak on that day. Don't speak. Sit, let Shirley speak and say how she's fearful for the safety of her family if that could happen in her house, in her yard. But if you remember the Roseau Day, a massive crowd turned up because that was promoted. And I was shocked when I realized it was not the take that we did. It was a new drama showing the many times the people changed the thing, showing the clock, showing Bayfront. People say, but what is that now? The story became convoluted and confused because the brother did not catch the vision of keeping it simple. One clock, no editing. Let them explain the bag was put and the bag was taken and they left it in the bag. So I can say that for the brother to, and I can speak about many other things that the party lost the opportunity to put Labour Party away with. But I will not do that because I'm not in the business of exposing the party's business.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say
and
that,
that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is to really explain to this person that we're not UWP bashing.
No,
We
I will never do that.
what we're saying is that they have to recognize that they have a hand in the Labour Party winning the election every time
A
that
big
they've been
hand.
in opposition. And if they recognize that, then they would be more willing, they should be more willing to talk to other parties and come with a united
and
front.
embrace different ideas.
Yeah.
Embrace different. If Brother Thompson Fontaine calls me right now, Tony, I'm taking his call and I'm sitting with him and talking to him any day, because we cannot do this alone. He cannot do this alone because his brand is already tied to the UWP and there is a strategy in place to marginalize his brand.
And
So
that's what and that is what the Labour Party does,
yes,
because they have a system in place to negate United Workers Party. So every opposition that comes, they put them in a United Workers Party box.
they tie them to UWP.
WP, because they already have
They
an
say we are
effective
splinters.
way.
We are splinters. I'm
Oh
not a
yeah,
splinter
it's
of
an agent
UWP.
of the United Workers Party. You're a splinter. Because so they only have to have one tactics to bury
So
United Workers Party, and everybody else that come, they put them in that same box. It's so obvious that is what they do.
and we can change the narrative.
Yeah.
We certainly can change the narrative. I do. One of the other things I told them: do not make reference to the prime minister by name. Don't call him. Don't take him on. Just forget that he exists. They say, we can do that now. Are you madman? Mr. is at this, Mr. is a cabal. I say, boy, that's you giving that man energy when you
oxygen. It's oxygen.
You don't do that. Let's find that. But again, so if the brother believes that we will never unite and unity has to be based on UWP, and so we must all work with them for that to happen, that is not how it's going to happen in Dominica.
Yeah, we have to be able to point out the shortcomings. They have to accept the shortcomings, and therefore everybody has to. Because I mean, because of my program, Labour Party calls me a UWP person. There are certain Labour Party people that will not work with TDN because they perceive TDN to be United Workers Party. So it's not a criticism of United Workers Party, but but Alex, let's wrap it up. It's 9:30. I know you had a full day at work and myself, so we're imposing on each other, and we'll
Yeah.
continue those types of discussions, and
And,
hopefully, it will spread and more people will learn from it.
yeah, and I'm looking forward to broadening the reach, to working with everyone who has something to offer. I believe I do have something to offer, so I'm going to continue giving it
Mhm.
until I become like Edward Oliver LeBlanc and decide not to give it anymore. But
Mhm.
for the time that I have to, I am doing it, and I'm looking forward to speaking with any and everyone who has interest in changing the status quo, especially and including my brother Thompson and people of the UWP. Let's have a conversation, man, because it hasn't worked. It has not worked. It
That's the long
has
and
not.
short of it. It hasn't
And
worked.
no amount of sitting back and trying to defend what has not worked is not going to work. And that is one of the problems with the surrogates of the opposition, because they think it has to be their way, and their way has not worked. It
Has
has
not
to
worked.
be a way that work around the system so that we can get in office and fix the problem. But if we leave it to the whims and fancies of those who have been trying to do it and failing to do it, we will not get it done. I think the producer just put up something again. Do not blame the panel, but take a deep look at UWP approach. That is a balance, a counterbalance to
Mhm.
what is happening.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and I've said so on many occasions, brother. I'm not here bashing. I've never bashed UWP, never. But I've spoken about the things I didn't like in terms of me being in there and seeing the glaring errors. I know I am not cut that way. I cannot sit down there and see you doing wrong, and I know we can do better and just say, okay, well, one day we'll do better. No, I cannot. I cannot. I cannot. I
Yeah,
cannot.
the Caribbean is running out of time. Dominica is running out of time before things change
Yeah.
to an irreversible level. So, Alex, we're gonna close it here. All right.
Yeah, man.
Next month, we'll be back at it, and folks are enjoying. We get good response and good reaction. So, I want to tell you thank you and enjoy the rest of your week.
Cheers, man. See you,
Sayonara.
man.
All
Okay,
right.
take care, man.
Okay. All right. So, folks, there you have it. Another brilliant conversation with Alex. Alex, as I said, he's not afraid to state his position. He's candid. He's forthright, and he has taken the time to educate himself on the things that he speaks about. And so, when he's there with us, we know we're getting rich content from him, and that's the type of conversations that I like to have with people. Where what I hate most is sometimes you try to have a discussion with somebody and they are in a position and they refuse to move from that position, and all they're doing is, yeah, and I usually sign out of those conversations because it's not my role to try to convince anybody. It's my role to, it's my objective to discuss and to understand other people's points of view, even when they are diametrically opposite to yours, you know? And so I really enjoy the conversation. Thank you to Brother Alex. And I hope that I'm very wrong when I think that the Caribbean is going to be taken away from us. I hope I'm extremely wrong, but there's no signs that show differently. And so, folks, next week, um, our agricultural program with Adrian Banis is on, and then the last Wednesday in March, we're going to do a program in recognition of the victims of the transatlantic slave trade. Right? I think that there's a day that the UN acknowledges it. I think it's on the 25th, and so we'll be doing a program with that. Our brother Crispin Gregoire had a huge part to play in the international observation of that day, and I have a soft commitment from him to come. I'll firm that up, but that's what we're looking to for the other two Wednesdays in March. So, folks, good night and enjoy the rest of your week. We'll do this again next week, Wednesday. Thank you and good night.